You're listening to the Flickcast, a podcast about stuff nerds love. I am Chris Ulrich, and joining me, of course, my co-host, Joe Dilworth. Hello, Joe.
Hello, Chris. How are you?
Greetings and salutations.
Yes, greetings and salutations.
I thought of that because I watched Heathers, that movie the other day.
Oh, yeah.
With Christian Slater and Winona Ryder, and he's like, greetings and salutations. I can't not do Christian Slater's version of Jack Nicholson. I apologize for even trying.
He did that for a couple movies. He did that for that and Pump Up the Volume. He was very much Jack. I think that was kind of his shtick when he started out.
Well, if you're a young actor trying to establish your own identity, then maybe you're just going to model yourself after people you admire. Like I'm sure there's a lot of young actors who pretend to be Brando for a while too.
Sure.
Or whatever. I'm not sure who people would be. Who would people be doing now? I wonder. Harry Styles, maybe. I don't know. What are
Tom
the kids?
Cruise,
what are the kids into now? I don't know.
Ryan Reynolds will be one that'll be mimicked in years to come.
Ryan Reynolds.
Sure.
So everyone's going to be a smart ass. That you're saying.
Pretty much
in the future. Like that's not happening already.
Kids are already that way.
If you haven't watched Heathers, it's a fantastic film. I'm sure you have, but other people. I'm sure it takes place. It was made a long time ago, but it does have the young Winona Ryder and the young Christian Slater and many other things. It's a funny movie, sort of a black comedy, but I don't know that it would be. I'm not sure you could make it today necessarily.
Yeah,
people would criticize you for trying to make a film that has the sort of ending that this has. I mean, you can make a film that criticizes school and everything and the ridiculousness of high school and whatever, but I don't know if you could have the premise that, I don't know, I guess I could spoil it, that JD is going to blow up the school or whatever he's going to do.
Yeah, I think that would be a difficult, I mean, you have cop procedurals that deal with potential shootings at schools that have episodes pulled because we have them happening in real life for about every 5 minutes. So I don't know that you could do a movie about he's going to blow up the school, even if you went even heavier on the dark comedy. But
I wonder what they do in Heathers the musical, because that's a thing I think that exists right now. So they must.
That's true.
Maybe they changed the premise slightly where. I mean, because if you think about it, the movie's pretty dark. I mean, Heather, does not like her friends, and so ends up, murdering them. the other Heathers, the other Mean Girls, if you will, because I'm sure that Tina Fey was influenced by Heathers a little bit for Mean Girls. But and no disrespect to Tina Fey, who's a brilliant writer, but you can't not be influenced by Heathers. But it's just that we even have a poster of Heathers in our house because people like it so much. But anyway, I don't know why I brought that up. Except that I never watched it,
but there was a Heathers TV series a few years ago.
There was. You have to imagine that that's more about the relationship between Veronica and the Heathers and how they deal with.
There is a JD in the main cast, but I don't know that he. From what I'm seeing of the description, there isn't anything about him wanting to blow up the school or anything. It's about dealing with bullies. So
right. Yeah, I didn't watch the show either because it's hard for me to. It would be hard for me to watch that and not think of the film because the film was excellent. So I don't know.
Although it looks like from episode descriptions, it keeps the same dark tone with killing students and making it look like suicides, and it does look like JD wants to blow up the prom, so I guess I guess they keep it. But maybe that explains too why it only lasted one season.
Why it's not on anymore. I mean, it could have been terrible too, for all we know.
But, probably.
But yeah, I don't think you can do, and probably that's for the best that you're not going to be doing any, let's blow up anything anytime soon. Like you don't really see a lot of movies about terrorists on airplanes right now and stuff like that. So you don't really see that kind of thing either. So, in fact, that whole genre, I think, has kind of gone by the wayside. I really think it peaked with Air Force One. So
I think so. Yeah.
There you go. So today's going to be a different episode. We're not going to necessarily talk about any specific shows or anything like that. We're going to talk about, it's going to be more like a whole episode of picks where we just discuss things that we're enjoying right now and watching or consuming. I hate to use that word. We're consuming IP right now. And we're not
Wow.
As soon as things became, As soon as things became IP or content, then everything became a problem, right? Now that everything's content, that makes it worse somehow. So, but that's what we're going to do today. We're going to mix it up a little bit. Andor is still going on. We're going to talk about that again. And I might mention it. during this episode a little bit, but that's something that's going to happen. But a lot of the other shows have ended, and I'm sure there's more starting. Like, what's the next MCU thing that's coming up? I'm sorry.
Don't know, actually.
I don't know. That's a trick question.
I don't know. Is it Echo?
I think
Echo,
it might be.
Echo.
What? Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. That's why I asked you. I thought maybe you would know.
It's like, I didn't know. I asked you. Why don't you know?
Why don't you know these things, man? All right, well, now I have to look. Disney Plus shows.
See? Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway.
Wow, we're...
this is going well.
This is going really well.
This is the kind of high quality... what I think what we're trying to say is that we are very prepared here.
Yes.
We do a lot of research, and we do a lot of, what's the word? Prep. Yeah, prep. That's the word. And
I know that there's a second season of What If that's coming in early in the year.
What If?
In 2023. So what?
Yeah,
if?
it's only October. There has to be another Disney Plus show coming out. I know there'll be the special, the Christmas special, but there has to be other shit. I don't know. Whatever. If you know, let us know.
Answers on a postcard. Send them in.
Yeah, we don't know anything. So
apparently we don't. I don't know. That's lame.
That is lame. We'll have to cut this part out because we sound stupid.
Well, it won't be any different than what people expect.
That's a good point. Yes. So let's see. Okay, so what about Willow? When does that come out? Is that coming out soon?
That's not in the MCU though.
Oh,
that is actually coming out soon.
Yeah, but I'm saying what is going to be on Disney Plus. Okay, so Disney Plus.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
2022. That's this year, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Willow's coming. Kenobi already came out. She-Hulk already came out. Andor. The Dropout. Oh, that's old.
The Dropout.
Miss Marvel. Spiderwick. I'm just looking at a list of things. Anyway. Okay, whatever. Bad Batch.
So there isn't anything with a definite date, but like What If, Secret Invasion are both listed as early 2023. Echo, Loki, mid 2023. Ironheart, Agatha, and Daredevil later in 2023 and going into 2024. So What If and Secret Invasion are going to be our next shows.
Oh, but don't forget about Limitless with Chris Hemsworth. That comes out in 2022 also.
Is that a show?
It is a show, and he was Thor. It's a show about him doing. It's like the world according to Jeff Goldblum. Only it's Chris Hemsworth like climbing mountains and shit. Doing Chris Hemsworth things.
Oh, okay.
Because he's on. Okay, he wants to unlock our body's superpowers to fight illness, perform better, and even reverse the aging process. Oh boy, I don't know.
Okay. Is there going to be magnets on this show?
There might be magnets and copper wristbands. I think.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
It's all about magnets these days.
Come on, guys. It's all about magnets.
It's all about magnets. Well, he does have that. Chris Hemsworth sure has some magnetism, doesn't he?
Wah, wah, wah.
Sorry. Yeah. Anyway, this is amazing, riveting stuff. But
wow, we're off to a great start.
Perhaps we should get on to the more important.
Should.
All right. So, in terms of things that you're enjoying or have enjoyed recently, what would be one thing that you've been enjoying? What would be one pick, I suppose, is the right word that you would like to throw out to the audience right now?
Well, my first pick, and it's also something that I'm going to be tending to not too long after we finish recording this episode, in fact, is an old hobby that I've rediscovered recently, and that's making mead. Home brewing, making hooch at home.
Is that considered hooch? I thought hooch was like booze.
Yeah, I think.
I don't know. I mean, you're more of a hooch expert.
I'm going to put that on my bio right now. Hooch expert.
Yeah, put that on your CV, right?
Yes. But yeah, no, I've really gotten back into mead making. I've got several 1-gallon batches of mead in various stages of development, as the kids say in Hollywood.
Sure.
Going right now. This soon after we finish this recording, I have a batch to put in secondary fermentation, which I'm going to add some things to make it not only taste interesting but look interesting. It'll end up looking kind of purple, which will be kind of cool.
Is it supposed to look purple?
Yeah, well, it will once I add pea flour, and that's PEA.
So you're not actually peeing in your meat. Okay, just checking okay.
Yeah, and I'm going to add some other things to it to make it taste good. I also have a cherry mead that is going to get bottled today.
Nice.
but yeah, it's mead is arguably the oldest fermented alcoholic beverage in the world. It's been it started out being made accidentally. And that also lets you know that it's very, very easy just to make basic mead. Literally, all you need is honey, water, and yeast. And you, in about a month's time or a little bit longer, you can have drinkable hooch. So
Nice.
that's a lesson for you kids out there. But
Is it high in alcohol content or
it
not
is. Yeah, it is. Usually, it's if you just, it will depend on how much mead. So, like for a 1 gallon batch, I put 3 pounds of honey in it, and that usually yields about a 13% alcohol.
3
content.
pounds of honey? That's got to be expensive.
Yeah, right now that's the only drawback to this is honey is really expensive right now. So thankfully, we have lots of farmers markets and farms around here. So like this summer we went berry picking, and the place where we go berry picking, they just happened to have at the booth they set up for the cash register honey from their hives, and it was super cheap. So I'm like, I'm going to get some of that, and made some mead with that. So if you just go commercial and just buy at your local Mega Mart or something like that, yeah, you're probably going to pay quite a bit. I would say if you're going to do mead, look into your local farmers markets. Oddly enough, Costco has a 5-gallon thing of mead or a 5-pound thing of mead, 5-gallon. 5-pound thing of mead that's their signature blend or brand that's actually pretty economical. So I've actually used that in a couple of batches. So
Cool.
but yeah, no, it's fun. It's really cool. I'm looking forward to actually. It's been great because usually a gallon yields about 3.5 bottles. So it's not a whole lot out of each batch, but I'm purposely making it small so I can have variety.
I guess the economics is my question, because if you're spending that much money on honey, I mean, would it be easier just to buy mead yourself?
No, it's really expensive too. Buying mead at the
okay.
store. So,
well, like I make stuff too, but I'm like, at some point, is it cheaper just to buy it at the store? But it sounds like you're still getting a deal. Plus, I think there's something to be said for making stuff yourself if you can.
yes,
Because it always tastes better, I think.
yeah. And the other thing too is, like I said, I'll usually drink a bottle pretty soon after I bottle it, and then at least one bottle from each batch I'm storing, and will revisit again in like a year, because much like I guess bourbon and whiskey and even wine, mead continues to age and get better and improve over time. So
Nice.
yeah, so I'm aging some as well as getting to enjoy some right off the bat. I am going to expand the home brewing into beer, because there are some recipes for some 1-gallon beer batches and even kits to make those. So I think I'm going to do some smaller. The problem is, when I was originally home brewing, I was like, I'm going to make a whole lot of beer. So I was doing 5-gallon batches of beer, and before long, I ended up with a lot of bottles of beer, and it's like, I'm never going to drink this. And in fact, when we moved, there were quite a few bottles that I was like, oh, this has been sitting in the garage for a while, and I cracked it open. I'm like, yeah, it's not very good. So
You don't want to drink that.
yeah, so I ended up dumping out a bunch of bottles of beer.
Well, I think I think it's like anything else. You're sort of what is it? The eyes are bigger than your stomach or something. Cause
yeah.
I used to drink more. I have an entire liquor cabinet of booze that's probably never going to get drank, consumed, because I just don't care anymore. But mead looks interesting. But you were talking about the historical origins of it. It looks like it even goes back to 2000 BC and shit. Like, so one of the ways, as an example, mead can be produced by flooding a bee nest.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
interesting. So it's speculated that Paleolithic hunter-gatherers discovered how to make short mead via this method, ready to drink within a few days or weeks, to make water more safer and pleasant. So there you go.
Yeah, exactly. So
That's cool.
It's been around for a while. It's don't listen to people. If you're interested in getting into mead, like I said, it's really simple to do. Anybody can do it and can do it well. But within just making honey wine is what it's it's also called. There are a lot of things you can experiment with, flavors you can add, different methods and techniques, different combinations. So there is room for being artistic with it and being creative, and having fun with it. So, but even if you're just like, yeah, I just want to have a few bottles of honey wine, you can make it yourself.
There you go.
And it's, I don't know, it's a lot of fun. And like you said, it's very satisfying. This is the same thing when I brewed beer. Popping open a bottle of something that you made and pouring it out in a glass and enjoying it is much more satisfying than buying it off the shelf, in my opinion. But yeah.
Your mileage may vary, but it does take work. I mean, it's not like it's super.
Yeah,
it's more like you're paying for a lot of it. You're paying for labor, I imagine, when you're buying stuff that's packaged at the store, whereas this is you doing the labor yourself. It's
yes, you'll understand and appreciate the labor a whole lot more.
You will,
really,
yeah.
Home brewing is mostly sanitizing and cleaning and washing stuff. That's 90% of it. The rest of it is making something you can drink. So,
and exactly. So I would imagine that this is probably, there's less of a chance of making something that you can't drink.
Yes.
Instead of beer, because I've made beer and beer doesn't always turn out, but this seems like it would be, I don't want to say easier, but maybe more idiot proof in a way. So
it really is. You put 3 pounds of honey in a 1 gallon jug, put some warm water in up to the gallon mark, shake it so it's blended, dump yeast in and put an airlock on it, and then you don't do anything and you let it do its stuff.
Go. So, because sugars help fermentation. So there you go.
Yep. So it is super, super easy to do.
That sounds like fun.
And very difficult to, I mean, if you let bacteria and nasty stuff in, just leave it open and don't sanitize your stuff, you'll probably end up going awry, but it's very difficult to do that even. So
well, that's cool. That sounds like fun. Yeah, I'm having the same, one thing I was going to talk about was, and I obviously missed this sort of craze back during the height of the pandemic when people are on lockdown. Everyone was making sourdough, but I've enjoyed making the sourdough bread at home. It's a long process. I don't think there's as much potential for illness, like unsanitary conditions, because you're not using a lot of like whatever. And plus, you're going to bake it. You're going to bake it in an oven at some point. But I wash my hands and everything. But it's just, but yeah, it's the idea that you could go to a store and buy something. Like I can go buy a loaf of sourdough bread for $8 or $10 or whatever, artisanal, whatever you want to call it, from a real bakery, $6, $8, whatever.
Right.
Or I could spend like almost 2 days and make it myself. So I feel like the time and trouble is worth it to me because you made something yourself. And I think there's a lot to be said. I think creative people in general, as I would say you are or I am, enjoy the process and enjoy the results of something that you made. Like I like to make pictures, or I like to I like to do photography or whatever. The results are what matter, but also the process is what matters too. And I think that's also the baking and making the sourdough in particular is very sort of methodical, but there's sort of an artistic sentiment to it a little bit, or an artistic side of it, because you have to do it the correct way. Otherwise it's not going to work out. So yeah, I totally understand that. And I've been really enjoying making the bread. Unfortunately, we have a new dog, and so puppies take a lot more time. So I haven't had I haven't been able to concentrate, because it does take some concentration. You have to, do the, get the things together, and you have to do the bulk fermentation, you have to do the autolays, and I have to do the this and that and the other thing. You have to keep track of stuff and turn the dough to develop that important gluten, because you're not using a stand mixer, you're not using anything. You're basically using your hands to do everything.
Right.
And then you have to time it right. And then I usually sort of cheat, and I turn the oven on, and then I turn the oven off, but it stays warm. And then I set the dough on top of the oven in the bowl, and that helps keep it warmer, so it actually ferments better, or does its rise better. It's super fun, and I'm into it. But I also have a bread machine now, which makes things simpler. I mean, it's kind of cheating in a way, because you don't have to do any. The hardest part for me is the sort of forming the loaves, dealing with the dough and not trying to put too much flour on it to try to make the loaves. And then it sticks to me. The trick apparently is to just get your hands wet all the time, which I do. So,
well, there you go.
But I'm enjoying it. Yeah, it's super fun. It's one of the things that you can focus on it. It's like in one of those hobbies or whatever where you can just sort of take your mind and focus on a task. And a lot of it, I think, is people enjoy like manual tasks, like, you know, woodworking or whatever. It's like your mind sort of checks out a bit and you're just working with your hands. Like, I'm sure you feel the same way when you're making the meat or whatever. It's like, I'm just sort of doing this thing and yeah, I'm following a recipe or whatever. But it takes your brain out of the equation, which I think we could all use occasionally. I can.
I agree. So. I get the same thing from making pizza dough and pizza sauce.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a much shortened process, the method I use to make the pizza dough, so it's not quite as elaborate or at all as elaborate as sourdough, I'm sure. But again, it's making something with your hands and then rolling it out the pizza dough to make the pizzas. I mean, it isn't, there is some physical exertion involved in it and getting it the way you want. And it's, but it's very, very satisfying and very fun, especially because we're big, for the most part in our family, we're big pizza eaters, especially my youngest.
Sure. Well, who doesn't love pizza? I mean, come on.
Yeah. And finally getting his seal of approval on one of the pizzas I made for him, just like, this is the best pizza ever. It's like, yeah, that felt pretty good.
That's cool. So, that's wonderful. Yeah, it is very, you know, I suppose, well, there are easier ways to make sourdough. I just decided to go with the most difficult method first because, I don't know, that's just the way I what did I watch? I watched something, I think it was Jon Favreau had a show where he and Roy Choi were going to different places. Anyway, they went to this bakery in Los Angeles, and there was a guy they talked to, and he showed like, oh, this is our bakery, this is how you make the sourdough, and then he has a book, so I read his book, and I'm like, oh, this is the most complicated way I've ever seen to make bread. So naturally, that's the one I must start with. So that's where you're doing it all by hand. You're just basically, you know, it literally takes, you have to do everything one day and get everything ready, and then you put it in the bannetons to form, you know, for form, and then you do the cold rise, and you put that in the fridge overnight. So you really can't bake till the next day.
I see.
And then even when you're baking it, you have to, at least the way I do it, and the way a lot of people do it, because I don't have a fancy professional oven with steam and all that stuff. So you put it in the cast iron thing, which has a top, and I take the top off, I put it in there, and I put all of that back in the oven, and I leave the top on, and it cooks that way for like the first 15 or 20 minutes, and that gets you the steam inside of the thing, and that gets you the rise, the oven spring that everyone talks about. And then you pull it out, you take the top off, and then you put it back in, so you get the nice crust. So it's like a whole,
nice.
Yeah, it's a very involved process, which is why I haven't been able to do it as much, because I'm trying to follow a little dog around to wait for them to go to the bathroom. So,
right.
And that's,
right.
You know, we're talking about other things that have amused us lately. Having a puppy is amusing because I haven't had a puppy in a couple of years. We got a second dog recently, and I forgot how. I mean, it's cute, but also annoying, as many things are. Like children are cute, but annoying sometimes. But I shouldn't say that. But I'm enjoying the puppy too. I shouldn't, but it's true. Anyone who's a parent will say they love their children, I'm sure, but there are also those moments where you're like, wow, this is a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. So,
for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's not like something you can plan for. No one really knows.
Right.
You can't really get job experience in being a parent until you are one. The first time. I mean, the second, I'm sure it's easier with the next kid because you already kind of know what to expect. But you know,
yes,
we went into it blind with nothing, and all the things I thought were going to be the most difficult when I first had the kid turned out to be super easy. Like I thought diapers were going to be like this huge thing, but they were like,
right.
I was like a freaking diaper expert in 5 minutes. But you know, it's later on when they have a will of their own and they can talk back to you and.
Yes.
Don't want to do what you're asking them to do, and then things become more difficult. Or getting out of bed, or brushing their teeth, or you know all that stuff. Who thinks about that? You know. And now I have more of an appreciation for my own parents. So thank you, Mom and Dad, wherever you are. So.
Especially having a teenager who is now becoming an adult, and another one who is about to become a teenager. I have much bigger appreciation for not only my parents being calm and collected, but what they went through that I didn't realize I was inflicting on them at the time because I was, trying to become my own person.
Well, right. And you're also, you're very absorbed in your own shit. And I was an only child, so I naturally thought I was the most important thing in the world. I still do. I still do think that. But, and then of course my child is also an only child, so he thinks he's the most important person. So there can't be two of us who are the most important person. It's really hard.
Right. Exactly.
There's conflict, man. It's difficult. But anyway, that's not important. I mean, I suppose I could say the things that one of the things that I'm picking is my son, because it's just, it's one of those jobs, and I don't even want to say jobs, but it's one of those things that you do in life that you never thought you would do, and it's unbelievably hard, but it's so rewarding too. And I don't want to be sappy,
it is,
but it's just because there's also those times when you got through to him, and you know that he understood what you're trying to tell him, and he's like, oh yeah, so he gets that, and that's an amazing feeling. And then just the idea that your son actually cares about what you think is kind of nice, but it won't last, I'm sure, but I'm enjoying it. So,
well, it's really, I'm going to pick that as my second one too, but that's really interesting because, especially having two, and not only having two, but they are two different people. It's like, oh, so kids aren't, just, the same, over multiple kids. They're very different people. And like you said, one of the rewards to it as well is also seeing them become even more their own person. And it's like, but it's like, so they're not making and doing the exact same things that I did, but it's satisfying in a way to see them making their decisions and making their choices, with I don't want to say wisdom, but with information maybe I've imparted upon them, and how I've raised them to be with Melanie, how we've raised them to be. So seeing that kind of reflected back at you sometimes, and in surprising ways, it's just like, wow, that's kind of cool. And those are the times where I'm like, okay, so they might be all right, but at the same time, I'm like, if they never leave the house, I'm okay with that. I know everyone's like, oh, I can't wait for my kids to leave the house so then we could do something. There is part of that because we never really, we had our first, Melanie became pregnant with our first before we got married. So we never really had a period of being married where...
Don't tell that to George R. R. Martin.
Yeah, I know. We never had a period of marriage where it was just us and we got to do things. Yeah. So we do talk about, when they're finally... have left the house, we can go live wherever we want, we can go do this, but then at the same time we're like, if they never leave the house, that's okay, because they'll be adults and we can still go away and that'll be all right.
That's right. Yeah, you can leave them at home. Yeah, they can watch the house. Yeah.
Yes. So the people that are like, God, I can't wait for my kids to leave the house, I'm like, are you sure about that? Because I don't really feel that way. But
yeah, I don't either. I'm like, or you could just stay at home and go to college or whatever. But
exactly.
I will say that I would say the lowest point that he and I have had in our relationship as parent to child was during the pandemic, when we were home together all the time and he was trying to do school at home too. That was very, very difficult for both of us. Very stressful for both of us.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because it's like I'm trying to be a teacher and I'm trying to get him to sit in a computer and learn, and there's also all kinds of other shit going on in the world, obviously.
Yeah, sure.
And we don't at that point, it's like we don't know what's going to happen. Will we ever be able to leave the house without wearing masks and a hazmat suit or whatever? Hazmat suit. There was very little information about COVID and very little of anything, so it's like we're just here and we're trying to do school and we're trying to act like everything's fine. And so that was just, it was a tough time because he didn't want to go to school, and he didn't want to, so we butted heads a bit. And
that we had that with our youngest. It actually turned out to be really awesome for our teenager, because the way they structured their distance learning, they didn't really have. It was basically like, here, you go to the Google Classroom and get your assignments and your work and do it. There were like a couple times in some classes where they had to meet with a teacher. I think I don't know how it quite worked out, but it was like once a week or something, they had a meeting with the teacher to go over stuff, but they were kind of left independent for a lot of it. So like Jack just did his own schedule. I mean, it was really interesting because before that he was like staying up late and having struggles getting up and going to school and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, that's just what I do. And with this, he was able to basically have his own schedule. And as long, we were like, let's see what happens. And he maintained his grades and we didn't have to step in and go, okay, let's do this differently. So it was actually kind of cool. And in an odd way, it got him set and in the right mindset to go back to in-person school. So it worked out really well for him. Our youngest struggled, but he just doesn't like school, and he likes gaming more than anything.
Sure.
And he's also got some other challenges that make school interesting for him. So the distance learning in a way was a little bit better for him because he didn't have to have any of the anxiety of being in person and things like that. So,
I think I'm not saying that it was just there was a lot of sort of conflict between us, me and my son. But
I gotcha.
It was mostly because I don't even want to use the word conflict. There was some tension because he doesn't really care for school that much either, but he still was able to do it. And I think it wasn't in the end. He still learned, and it just was a challenge because his schoolroom was in his playroom because we had his desk and everything in there. And I'm like, that's so I could, keep an eye on him from downstairs if I had to go downstairs or whatever. But he, there was more than one occasion where the teacher knew he was not paying attention. It was like, you gotta focus, buddy, and stuff. So, but it was challenging. And also I felt bad for the teachers too, because that must have been a pain in the ass during all that time too.
Oh yeah, because that was done quickly. It's like, okay, now teach remotely. And it's like,
yeah.
And I don't want you to think it was all roses with us, because I worked, my office is right next to my youngest's room. And so I'd get him started with school and I'd go in and work. And then a little bit later, I'd get, because they did a lot video. She taught and, they did a lot online. I'd get a text from the teacher going, hey, so Gavin has fallen asleep. I'm like, oh, jeez. Yeah. So I have to go in and wake him up.
Just go respond and go, maybe if you were more interesting.
Yeah, maybe if you stop talking in that monotone. Come on.
Could you have some sock puppets, perhaps, or something?
Yes.
No, and
that's on you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's on you. Make it more interesting. Entertain my child, damn it.
Yeah.
I got to work.
Anyway,
I don't want this whole show to be about the bummer that we had during COVID, because everyone had their own troubles, and I know it was a tough time for everybody. But I am grateful. In a weird way, I am grateful, and it was a positive experience in a lot of ways, and we became closer because of it, and we have a really good relationship. And sometimes, there's tension in every relationship sometimes, and he's at the point where he's like asserting himself and trying to be more of his own man and everything, which I appreciate. But sometimes it doesn't work out. But I feel like it's hard for me to get mad about that, because I'm sure I was that way or even worse. I'm still that way. I'm still like, I don't want to listen to your stupid rules. I don't want to do. It's weird to me, and then we can move on, I guess, if you want to. It's weird to me to be the person who's in charge of the rules, because I fucking hate rules.
Right.
I never thought I would be a parent where I'd be like, no, you have to do this and this and turn off the lights and blah blah blah. I'm like, what the fuck am I talking about? I hate all of this stuff. I don't want to be that guy, because I was never that person growing up or now. I'm not a rule follower.
Me either.
It's just weird. It's a weird circumstance, because I'm at home, so I'm sort of in charge of that kind of thing more. Anyway, it's weird.
Yeah, it's a weird situation to be, like you said. I'm a rule breaker and I'm not a rule follower, but then I'm supposed to teach two people how, and we've had that kind of discussion with them. It's like, they're like, because especially teenagers doing the same thing that I did. It's like, why? That doesn't make sense. Why do we do that? And why is this set as a rule and stuff? It's like, listen, I get it. And I agree with you. It doesn't make any sense, but it's the law. And it's, my suggestion to you is, follow it and don't break it. But if you are that animated about it, get into politics, unfortunately, and
run for office.
Change it from within. It's like, start at the local level, go be on a city council, and make changes. Thankfully, we're in an area that's fairly progressive. But yeah, it's very interesting having those discussions because invariably it gets, well, how'd you react to it? How'd you do this? And it's like, oh, I totally ignored it. And, there were times where I got in trouble and here's what happened.
Yeah, how did I react? What did I do about homework? It's like, I just didn't do homework.
Right.
But you have to, but I never did that. So
right. So it is we've been pretty honest with our kids too about, listen, it is beneficial. Here's how it will benefit you.
yeah,
And there are things about it that are not. And there are things about it that you might be like, yeah, this doesn't make sense. And you're probably right, but you gotta, you gotta get through school. You gotta let that go and just get through this, and we'll help you, and you'll be better off down the road.
It's one of those things it's like a rite of passage. You just sort of have to do it.
Yeah,
I suppose. But I mean, we could talk about why school was invented and why it exists and what's the point of homework. I'm not really a fan of homework, to be honest, but I think that anyway, whatever. That's not what this show's about. But
yes,
I don't know. I'm on my soapbox about school now, but
I know
we're very fortunate that we have a great school and great teachers, and that he seems to enjoy school sometimes, unless it's in the morning and no one wants to get up in the morning. So I'm like, why did they start school so early? That was the nice thing about homeschool is like it started at 9.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I'm like, perfect. I'm awake at 9. That's fine. But anyway, so what's something else that that's not school related that you or whatever? We don't want to get too personal, So
well, too late.
Too late. I know.
Anyway, so something else I'm currently enjoying is, and this has been my favorite show for pretty much my entire life, is Doctor Who.
Sure.
That is especially prevalent right now because the day after we record this, we're in another phase of the show where the lead actor is changing. Jodie Whittaker, who's been playing the Doctor, the first female Doctor, for the last few years, is stepped down from the show. Her final episode airs on Sunday, and now it's kind of crazy because next year is the 60th anniversary of the show, and it's still this like worldwide phenomenon 60 years on, which is great. But not only have they announced who's playing the next Doctor, great actor Ncuti Gatwa, who stars in Sex Education, is taking over the TARDIS. He will be the first person of color to be the Doctor, so another milestone.
Nice.
And also they're promoting that he is openly, and he always has been, openly gay. So basically the first gay black Doctor, as the producers are pushing.
Wow, I'm sure that's going over well with certain people.
Oh, I'm sure it is, but I'm excited because this guy is a great actor, and I think he's going to bring some real dynamic qualities and stuff to the role. It's really weird. Anytime the lead actor changes, it's always kind of a bittersweet time, because I've always said, like, wow, this person who's playing the Doctor currently is, my favorite, and they're really doing a great job with the role. Now's probably the time for them to leave, because you want to leave on a high, right? You don't want it to be like,
right,
oh my God, I wish this person would step down. I'm so tired of this. So, it's kind of a bittersweet time. It's like, I don't want to see this person go, but I'm really excited what the future portends and what this new person.
It's not like she can't come back, right? Because doctors frequently come back.
Oh, yeah, and that's part of the thing. So next year for the 60th anniversary, after announcing the new actor who's going to play the Doctor, they also announced that David Tennant is coming back in the role for a series of specials for the 60th anniversary, which everyone's like, how does that work? Because does she degenerate? How's that going to work? So,
well, it's time travel, man. They could all exist in multiple universes or whatever, right? So.
So I'm excited about that because I'm sure it's going to be an exciting story. So it's really cool to see energy and excitement for the show revitalized. Like I said, going into the 60th anniversary of the show, and I think it'll do well going forward. One of the producer, Russell T. Davis, who brought the show back in 2005 after it had been off the air since '89 for the most part, is coming back for the 60th anniversary and to produce the show going forward. So people are pretty excited about that because he's the one who brought the show back in a good enough way that it's still back. It's still continuously airing since 2005, since it came back. So very excited for the show. Sad to see Jodie Whittaker leave. She was amazing in the role. She's got a lot of flack, obviously, because it's like, oh my God, a woman in this role. It's like, this is a character that regenerates every time they die, which is, I must say, brilliant for in the 60s to have come up with that as we want to continue the show, but this actor wants to leave. What do? Well, it's sci-fi. We'll just have him change. It'll be fine.
It's crazy to me that the show is still on. I mean, the first episode was what, 1963?
Yep, 1963.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
So.
And like I said, it's had breaks. It was effectively canceled in 89. They did a TV movie in 96. And then it came back in 2005. But honestly, in the time it was off the air, through novels and audio adventures and fan-produced stuff, it only gained in popularity while it was gone. Which maybe that was the thing. It's like, hey, let's rest this for a little while and see what kind of popularity happens.
When it came back, that was Christopher Eccleston, right?
It was, yeah.
Okay.
So it came back. And I was a little wary of it coming back, but they wisely, much like with the TV movie they did it as a continuation instead of a reboot. Because it's like, well, why not? I mean, the actor changes anytime there's a new one, or the character changes anytime there's a new actor. So why not continue it and keep that continuity and bring back the old fans as well as introduce new fans to it. So they did it well, and it's still going, and I'm still very excited about it. So there you go. Doctor Who.
Doctor Who.
Doctor Who, everybody. Woo!
Doctor Who. Yeah. Who's the best Doctor? Is it Tom Baker?
Yeah, he's probably, I would
feel
say.
Like the most beloved, maybe?
I think he's the one that's most, because everyone thinks, oh, Doctor Who, that dude, the guy with the scarf, right? Yeah, okay.
That guy with the scarf, yes.
Yeah, and he was the longest tenured Doctor. He was in the role for 7 years, and no one is even. I think the guy before him, John Pertwee, was like 5 years. So everyone else has been around 3 years. So he's longest serving actor to play the Doctor. And one little cool note, though, the character of the Doctor has two hearts, has a binary circulatory system, so has two hearts. Sure. And when Jodie Whittaker was filming her final episode that's airing tomorrow, did I say that? Or will have aired by the time you listen to this. But when she was filming that, she was very pregnant. And so the joke is, for the first time ever, the Doctor had two hearts in reality as well as on the show. So
adorable.
Yeah.
Is that why she's leaving the show? Because she's going to have a kid?
No, I think she's, once she had decided she was going to leave the show, she's like, okay, so I can have kids now, because the shooting schedule for that show does not, it wouldn't be able to really work around a pregnancy too well. So, but yeah.
No, it wouldn't, but I'm sure they'd figure out a clever way to include it. But I could see, plus if you're pregnant, you don't really want to work probably, because carrying around a kid is it's an ordeal.
It is not.
Sure.
It is not.
From what I understand, obviously I've never been pregnant, but
right.
I've been around someone who's been pregnant for a while, and it was no picnic. You
exactly.
don't want to be running around solving crimes or whatever, I suppose. But
and it's one of playing the Doctor in Doctor Who is one of the few roles outside of, like, say, Star Trek, that once you play that character, you're forever identified with it. And the actors that have played him or her seem to be okay with it and remain ambassadors for the show. And like you said, there are always anniversaries where they try to bring back as many of the previous actors as possible to interact. And that's the other highlight, is whenever you get a multi-Doctor episode, sometimes you get it between anniversaries too, and that's always exciting to see them interact. So she'll, there's every possibility she'll appear again. But
except Christopher Eccleston, he will never come back.
Yeah, he has considered it. He just,
I mean, whatever.
I get it though. I mean, it
didn't work out for him. It wasn't for him. It wasn't his cup of tea, as they say, right?
Exactly. And I think he, even if we don't know all of it, everyone has valid reasons for, fans are like, he owes it to the show and stuff. It's like, no, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't really.
Nobody really owes you. He did a role. He got paid for it. Much like every other actor, they don't owe anything to the fans. Or
No,
the
it was just a job to him, I think. Plus, he just, But who will be the new companion? That's the question. Will there
that's a big question. We don't know that yet. Although they start shooting, they've already shot the episodes for the 60th anniversary next year, and in November they start shooting the season after that with Shooty. That's funny. His name is Shooty, but
Shooty.
So at some point in the next few weeks, we'll get to see what costume he's going to wear, which is always a big deal, and who the companions are, because once you start shooting, especially on location, it's kind of difficult to hide that.
Yeah, you won't be able to hide it,
Yeah, so they usually announce that like right before they start.
It should be a robot.
Location filming. Yeah, well, they did have one at one point. But
well, because droids are funny. Like the droid in Andor, I enjoy him. He's funny.
They had an android companion called Chameleon who could take on the guise of anybody, hence the name. And they had constructed an actual full-size humanoid robot that they could control with wires and stuff, and it went horribly awry soon after they started filming. So, there was a season with Chameleon as a member of the TARDIS crew, and you saw him like 3 times, and that was it.
Well, you would imagine that the technology has improved. You could probably have him, but I mean, it's still not a high-budget show, is it? So,
yeah, and I guess that would be my only negative thing I would say about the show in the current era is all the companions are like someone from present day Earth. And it's like, well, it would be nice to have like an alien as a companion, but I get that you want to give somebody for the audience to identify, but it's like, well, if you're going to have even when they've had multiple companions, they've all been like people from Earth in present day, and it's like, mix it up.
And let's be honest, a lot of times it's a hot girl. I'm just saying.
Well, it is. Yeah.
I hate to say that, but it's true.
Even when Jodie was the doctor. So
that's what I'm saying.
But I'm like, they should mix it up and have like, you could have someone from present day Earth, but then have like an alien. I don't know. It would be nice if they mix that up a little bit. Maybe they will. Who knows? But
yeah, maybe they will. Maybe it'll be like a glowing box that just floats in the air, like in Umbrella Academy, which was very funny.
Yes, exactly. That would be
or
great.
A mechanical owl. It should be a mechanical owl, like in Clash of the Titans. Everyone
see,
that would be a terrible idea. It would all be stop motion. Yeah, so that would be ridiculous. I'm also gonna. One of my picks is also a show, which I sort of saw when it premiered. I didn't see it, but I was aware of it when it premiered. And I'm like, well, I don't know. That doesn't sound interesting to me because I don't really care necessarily, and it probably just got lost in the shuffle. Anyway, it's called Pennyworth.
Yes.
It's the story of Alfred Pennyworth, Batman's butler.
The origin of Batman's butler. Yes.
Gentleman's gentleman, yeah. But it's basically you can imagine as if Alfred Pennyworth was like James Bond, is how the show kind of goes. He does a lot of spy intrigue stuff with Thomas Wayne and with Martha Kane, who ends up being Martha Wayne, obviously.
Yep.
But there's actually a lot of interesting twists, and I don't know if this is all canon for the comics because I don't know as much about Alfred as I probably should. But I do enjoy Batman. But it's a really good show, and the guy playing Alfred does a really, really good Michael Caine impersonation. I mean, it's basically as if young Michael Caine was playing him, because I think that's the way the show was developed originally, as sort of it was inspired by Michael Caine's portrayal of Alfred, but it serves as sort of a prequel in ways to Gotham, that show. It's called Gotham? Yeah, I think it is.
Yes.
And then also to apparently V for Vendetta, too. So, which I find
is true, yes.
Because there are some things that are happening in the show which I can see how they lead to V for Vendetta. There's like a lot of religious versus, whatever, this whole idea of civil war in England and everything. It's definitely, it's an alternative reality because there's blimps in the sky, right?
Right.
So like in the what was that movie? What was that show? Shoot, the show I'm talking about. Where they went to the other version of the Earth and they had
Fringe.
Thank you. And they had blimps, so you knew that was the alternative version of the world. But I'm really enjoying it. It's fun. The characters are really interesting, and there's some good action. So Alfred is a former SAS guy, and he gets into scrapes and does like spy stuff and deals with the with the No Name League and the Owls and whatever, and it's like the whole and the CIA and I was confused about Thomas Wayne being a spy, but then because he's not a doctor yet, although maybe he is a doctor, but they don't really talk about him being a doctor. But I think in the third season he goes back to being a doctor, which is what Thomas Wayne is supposed to be.
Yes.
But he does mention Gotham when he talks to Martha the first time he talks to her. She's like, "Where are you from?" He's like, "Gotham." She's like, "I've heard it's a shithole." I'm like, "Well, it's getting better,
Well, yeah.
And you get more about Thomas Wayne. You meet his sister, and like he's really worried about. You find out that he really is this billionaire guy who just wants to be a spy, kind of thing. But there's an interesting twist where you learn, about his morality too, because like he's trying to infiltrate. Anyway, I won't spoil the show, but there's you realize why he's a good role model for Bruce. And why it's even more tragic when he has missed his untimely demise. But it's fun to see this sort of formation of their relationships and to see Alfred and him not like each other at all at the beginning, and sort of become this tight knit, so close, in fact, that he says, "You can take care of my son after something happens to me." So
yes, exactly. No, I quite like the show too.
Yeah,
it was a surprise. I like the fact that it's
exactly.
Like you say, it's got the spy element and also kind of alternate. Universe,
so you've watched it, okay? Good.
Oh yeah.
I was like, I don't want to spoil it for Joe, but I also don't want to spoil it for other people. But I think it's worth watching. I'm glad there's like 3 seasons, so I'm like going into it cold. I'm only in the first season, and it's fun. Actually, I really like Paloma Faith's character too. She's terrific. It's like the sadistic sort of. Whatever you want to call it, and then she's really good, and I can't remember her name, Peg or something, but anyway,
it's
and Polly Walker as her sister. They're a really good group, and they like have that fight in the. I was like, damn, they're knocking each other out.
It's like whoa,
whoa, what's happening there? And then James Purefoy apparently shows up at some point, so that's cool too. But
it's a really good show, and like I said, a huge surprise because I'm like, again, much like Andor and Obi-Wan, I'm like, who wants to see a show about Alfred? And it turns out I want to see a show about Alfred if it's this. So,
exactly. Well, it's also developed by Bruno Heller, who has a pretty good track record for shows.
He's a decent,
and Danny Cannon, who's a pretty good director. But Bruno Heller, he's done a lot of things. Obviously Gotham, but he did Rome, which is one of my favorite shows of all time. So I love. I feel like that got shortchanged on HBO. They should have given Rome more seasons, but it was so good. If you've never watched Rome, by the way, you should definitely watch it, people.
Yes.
It's excellent. And he did The Mentalist, which I sort of like, but
I like The Mentalist a lot.
I haven't watched Gotham, which I kind of want to, but to be honest, the main actor kind of doesn't do it for me, I guess. But
I never watched Gotham either, and it seemed like it would be a show I would watch, but it was just one of those. It's one of those shows that got lost in the shuffle because it just had so much other going on and so many other things to watch. I just didn't get to, but it's finished now, so I can watch the whole thing if I want to.
Yeah, I guess I don't think. I think Ben McKenzie is fine for like certain things, but I didn't really believe him as Gordon. And maybe if I watched the show, I would. I did watch. I think I watched the first couple of episodes, and it didn't hook me.
Yeah, it seems like I watched that too, and I was like, eh.
And I like Sean Pertwee, who is also doing an interesting Michael Caine sort of thing. As the older Alfred, but I do wonder about the age difference between Alfred on Pennyworth and Thomas Wayne, because I always feel like Alfred was older than Thomas Wayne. But I guess not, because he seems younger. He's like only 26 in this show, right? And Thomas Wayne seems older, but I guess he's just that he's older than Bruce. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter.
It's a good show, though. No, I definitely like it. So definitely watch it if you haven't, so that they can continue to make more seasons. Definitely. I'll see how many more times I can say definitely. Most definitely, man. Most definitely.
I would watch. Yeah, I would watch more. I'm really enjoying it, and I like the side characters too. Danny and his other buddy, whose name escapes me, but. Yes. The drunken Scotsman is always the thing.
You always do that, and then I can never remember names. So
I'm terrible with names, folks. And as a person who should know these things, I don't know these things. So, and I'm sad about what happens to a certain character, but
Well, not every.
I guess you have to have what's the word? You got to have some motivation and some conflict for.
You got to have some stakes that are real,
But he seems to bounce back pretty well with the bartender girl. So,
well, I mean, it's a bartender, so why not? I mean,
I guess
I don't know what that means, but still.
I don't know either, but yeah. Anyway, he's just he's going through some stuff. Anyway, what else you got? What else you got, man?
Well, I will pick something that I talk about frequently on here. No, it's not Marillion. We can get to that though if
Thank
we
God.
have time. But I'm going to pick 3D printing because I just can't. I can't stop talking about 3D printing.
Can't get enough.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be setting up this winter a big area in my garage so I can have all my printers there. And a workspace so I can do painting and all that kind of stuff. And
nice.
Yeah, it's just really fun. It is something I picked up I keep calling it my pandemic hobby, and it's true because that was, during lockdown was when my a coworker kept talking up 3D printing, and I got really excited about it, and I was talking about it so much that my wife, I've told this story, but my wife was like, just get a 3D printer, would you? And so I did, and 3 3D printers later, I'm just having fun with it. I know a lot of people are like, oh, what practical things are you making with it, and what are you doing to do better for humanity with it? I'm like, I'm not making toys.
Everything doesn't have to be practical, dick.
Yeah, making toys with it and having fun.
Yeah.
And there's so many great models out there that you can either purchase or find for free to make literally anything you want. And for the things that I can't find, I'm going to start learning 3D modeling myself so that I can design them myself. It's like,
cool.
So it's really kind of opening up this whole new area of interest, and it's just creative and exciting, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. So there you go.
Terrific. Yeah, you mentioned 3D printing a lot. I think it sounds like a lot of fun. I just wish that I had space for a 3D printer. I'd probably get one, but
they're not that big. Some of the beginner ones are pretty small.
I want the big one. I don't want a beginner one. I'm just kidding.
Oh, that's right. You go for.
I go big or go home.
That's right,
my friend. So the other thing, one of my picks this week is a book written by a gentleman named. He's got an interesting name. His name is Kenji Lopez-Alt.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
He's a writer and a former chef, and anyway, he wrote a book. Actually, he's written 2 books, but the book that I've read of his most recently is a book called The Food Lab. So basically, Kenji, as he calls himself, and I can call him that because we're pals. No,
of course,
I've never met the man, but he has a series of YouTube videos where he does like first person. So he puts the GoPro on his head while he's cooking stuff, which is super interesting. Unless he moves around too much, but I guess he doesn't do that now because he realizes that people are watching and get nauseated. But so he's really good at cooking. He had a couple of columns at the New York Times and at Serious Eats, and he was a chef for a long time. Never went to culinary school, but definitely learned his craft on the line, as they say. But this book is basically because his mom always his mom always wanted him to go and like be a doctor or something because that's what happens sometimes. But he instead decided to worry about food. But basically, it's the science of cooking. And so you basically he's done all these experiments to basically, teach exactly how to make stuff based on the science of what's happening while you're cooking things.
Right. Okay.
It's super interesting. And I learned so much about how to cook from reading this book and from his videos, but he's such an interesting guy. It's like, here's why the eggs do what they do. Here's what the Maillard reaction is. Here's why this kind of thing happens. And this is the best way you can do it if you're going for this result because of science. And the more you kind of apply scientific principles to cooking, the more you realize that you can make really good stuff repeatably,
Yes.
So and maybe you'll get accidentally, you'll make something good once. But now that I've read this and just practicing whatever, I think it's made me a lot better at making things. So it's cool. And he also wrote a book about the wok, how to cook using a wok, because one of his favorite pans in the kitchen is a wok, and not just because he's Asian, but because woks are cool.
Right.
So I want to get that one, but I haven't read that one yet. And I also need to get a wok. That would help. And then his third book is Every Night is Pizza Night, which I also figured you would appreciate. It's a kid's book about making pizza. So anyway, but that's one of the picks of mine. I really thought the book was fascinating, and you learn so much. And there's so many good recipes in there that I've tried so many of them already, and they all turn out great because of the science, And it's funny, people think of cooking as this esoteric art form, and it is in some ways. There's an art to it. But there's also a sort of a practical scientific side of it, because you're basically changing the state of matter, right? You're altering the meat, or you're altering the eggs, or you're altering the whatever. I mean, it can't be created or destroyed, but it can be changed. And once it's changed, it can't be changed back. Like once you cook an egg, you can't uncook it, or once you cook steak, you can't uncook it. And it's just the chemical changes and the sort of physical changes that go through food. It's fascinating to me. And I'm a science nerd, so I just thought the whole thing was terrific. So anyway, read the book if you have any interest in cooking at all. I think it'll definitely improve your cooking from all that. So anyway, it's
cool.
It's super cool. It won every award you can win. New York Times bestseller, blah blah blah, James Beard Awards, etc. etc. All the shit. So it's good. So it's
all
good.
of it. Yes.
All of the awards. All of the awards. For
backed
everything.
up a truck of awards and said, "Here you go."
It was a New York Times bestseller, Amazon Cookbook of the Year, Library Journal Cookbook of the Year, James Beard Award for General Cooking, International Association of Culinary Professionals Cookbook of the Year. I'm just reading it from his website, but and the other thing is he's just a cool guy. You get the feeling that you could just hang out with him because his videos, he's very accessible, which I appreciate. So
nice.
Anyway,
very cool.
Kenji Lopez-Alt. That's my pick. Another pick. What about you? You got anything else?
Sure. I mean, I got lots of stuff. So,
but we don't want this to be a 3-hour episode either. So
we don't. Maybe I'll just give some quick mentions to some comic books I'm reading.
There you go.
There's another. DC Comics is famous for their crises, which are universe altering team up. Cross the board team ups of all their characters. They're currently in another one called Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, which is a sequel.
Welcome to Earths.
Yeah, which is a sequel to the original Crisis on Infinite Earths. So they're doing that again. There's a lot of great stuff going on with the X-Men comics. A few years ago, Jonathan Hickman kind of revolutionized and really changed the landscape of X-Men comics. Now they basically, mutants declared their own nation on a sentient island that originally tried to kill them, but they made peace with it. It's cool. It's all about making friends. Not only have they declared their own nation, they also have. Death in comics has always been like kind of a joke. It's like, oh, they killed off Superman, but of course he comes back in a few issues, and they've killed off this character and they come back. Well, they actually have a whole system on Krakoa, their island, where they've utilized 5 mutants with specific powers and have what they call the resurrection protocols. So between everyone backing up their consciousnesses on Cerebro and being able to make exact duplicate bodies of a person, they now have a way to basically cheat death. So they have a in-universe explanation for how X-Men keep coming back. So they only use it on mutants, but there's quite frequently in the issues of the current series, and there are many of them. Somebody gets killed off, and it's like, okay, well, we'll bump them up on the list on the resurrection protocols, and they're back next issue. So it's kind of interesting, cheeky little way to say, our characters are immortal. But there's a lot of other nuances and stuff going on in the X-Men comics that make them very, very interesting to read. So
cool. That's cool. Yeah, when I got back into comics, it was during the, I suppose I can say the name, Joss Whedon X-Men run.
Yes.
And so that's when I jumped back into Marvel, because I had been out of comics for a long time. And so, I was reading the stuff that I needed to read for work type stuff. Like if I was interviewing creators or whatever, I would read all their stuff, but I wasn't reading comics for pleasure as much as I used to.
Yeah.
but that kind of drew me back in. So I kind of started reading since then. But Hickman I like a lot. I think I definitely am behind. I have piles of stuff I haven't read.
He's a great writer.
Yeah, I like his stuff.
Yeah.
But he's probably going to try not to be a terrible person like everyone does. But right now I'm enjoying it.
Wow, way to go.
Yeah, way to take it down. Sorry.
Yeah.
Or like Kai Kwan or whatever. I always butcher his name. Everyone loves him right now, but now he's going to try not to be a terrible person. Or Brendan Fraser. They're going to find out something horrible about him. I just keep getting let down by people, So
yeah, I get it.
Brendan Fraser is going to be a terrible person.
No, he's not.
No, he won't. No, he won't. He won't. Yeah. Damn it.
He won't. He's
because look at Bill Murray now. Bill Murray even is a horrible person.
That I know. It's like all of a sudden now. It's like, wait, when did that happen? So Keanu Reeves is next. You know that, right? So
don't even say that.
No, because then I'll just lose all hope at that point. So.
That'll be it. Yeah, that'll be it. That'll be officially the worst timeline. So
yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if that's really going to happen. It's just I think that there's a lot more attention on that kind of stuff now.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. But he does have that kind of curmudgeonly sort of, I am Bill Murray and you're not, kind of, I'm an asshole, but it's funny. So you can see him kind of probably being a dick sometimes and thinking that's funny, but not really funny. So I don't know. I'm not excusing his behavior, but I can, and I imagine that stuff that was cool 20 years ago is not cool now. So
absolutely. Yeah. Especially back in the 80s. It's like, oh no, that's not
as much coke now, so you can't be funny or whatever.
That's true, or have an excuse for being a jerk. Exactly. It was all the coke. It's like, no, you don't do that anymore. Oh, oops.
Yeah, no one does that anymore. It's not cool.
Yeah.
So that was an aside. Sorry. I guess I'll let me run down a couple of things that I've got here. I'm also enjoying the new season of Atlanta, which is still a funny, crazy, weird, sort of surreal kind of show, which I dig. I think it's just crazy. This is one of the last episodes I watched was they were definitely doing a parody of Tyler Perry because they went to the guy's name was Mr. Chocolate and he had his own studio and he would just talk to people through a speaker. That was it. It was pretty funny. Yeah, I don't know that. I mean, hopefully Tyler Perry has a sense of humor, but who knows?
He seems to. Well, I don't know.
But that was also a Zazie Beetz centered episode, which I appreciate. So
that's always good. Yes,
I do enjoy the Miss Beetz.
Yes.
And then of course Andor, which I'm really enjoying. But I think the other thing that has really been, and I've mentioned this lots of times before. But one of the things that helped get me through, the crazy days of lockdown and just increased my mood, it give me something to look forward to a lot during the week was Dungeons and Dragons. And I know I've said that before, but that is something I'm still enjoying. I'm not bored of it. I'm not, I'm like, it's like, I don't need it anymore. It was a nice crutch. It turns out that it's just a fun thing to do with people. And I had forgotten that. I guess, or other things intruded, or I just didn't, I didn't know anybody. But thank goodness for the internet in some ways, and the tools that exist for playing online. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to. And the fact that we could all get together using Discord and then using Roll20 and using D&D Beyond, which is where we keep track of all of our characters and stuff. And now we're using a thing called Foundry VTT or Virtual Tabletop. And the maps are really, it's really innovative. It's really good.
Nice.
And you can play with people all across the country. Like most of the people I play with in my regular session, they're on the East Coast and I'm sort of in the Central. So they're an hour behind me. But you can play with people all over the world. It's been one of those things that I definitely look forward to. And it's been, I mean, it's not an exaggeration or hyperbole to say that I think it was one of the things that kept me sane and kept me, besides this podcast, which is also one of the things I was going to mention, how much I enjoy doing this still.
Yeah.
But that was another thing that it kept me going. It's like, I have this, I can, do this. And being a parent and just, trying to keep it together for him and just keep the world spinning because tomorrow's another day. Because the sun will come out tomorrow, Joe. That's what they say. So
life comes at you fast.
It does. It really does.
Yes.
So Not like the show, which is dragging on and on. But
Well, because we
Sorry,
take the
folks.
time to enjoy things. So
well, we do take the time to enjoy things, and this has been a more personal episode, I think, than typical.
yeah,
So that's okay. You know what? There's no time limit. It could be 2 hours. I don't care. It's fine. But,
there you go. See, look at you.
I'm already. I'm growing. It's good. But yeah, those are some of the other things. And I also should mention my good friend cannabis as well, which I also enjoy. So,
Well, there you go. Yes, exactly. Yes,
in a legal sort of way,
yes.
because I don't break the law. Damn it.
Nope.
Yeah, exactly. So allegedly, allegedly I'm enjoying cannabis. So
I'll mention Letterkenny too, because
yeah, that's a great show.
that is always a hoot to watch and always makes me laugh. And it's like it's one of those. It's like, you know, I feel like just like relaxing tonight or watching something that is just funny and let's put on some Letterkenny. So that's always a go-to. So yeah,
It is, yeah, and Shoresy too, which I
Yes.
was again another one of those shows. Like, wow, do I really need a Shoresy show? Because to me, that character was like not that interesting.
but
your
it's
balls
good.
give your balls a tug. You know, I tit fucked your mom. You know, it's like how many times can you watch that joke? It's like, okay, I get it. He's an asshole, but it turns
Yeah.
out he's an asshole, but with a heart in the right place.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
With a heart of gold. Yes,
With a heart of gold. I'm sorry, did I say tit fuck your mom? I apologize.
you did. You can't say that.
I just did, man. This
You
looking to have
can't
to
say
be.
pig fucker in front of Jesus.
That's right, you can't. But apparently you can. I just thought about that because that was that almost that entire line appeared in a recent episode of Pennyworth. So
Well,
you wouldn't
we were-
shoot me. You wouldn't shoot me if I was tit fucking your mom. That's what Danny Boy says or whatever.
Wow, we were going to get away with a PG episode, and it turns out
No, that was never gonna happen.
No.
I would just ruin it by saying fuck or something. So.
Well,
Oh damn! There I go. Anyway, any other things you want to mention, or should we wrap it up?
I think we should probably wrap it up. That's probably
Okay, so find the Flickcast at the usual places, you know, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. Find Joe and I on the socials. What Joe writes is Joe, and I am Chris Yu, or Ulrich Picks at Instagram, and the Flickcast is at Linktree, linktr.ee/the Flickcast, or you know, Linktree. You can figure that out. It's pretty easy.
Yeah.
That's where you can find the other places the show appears, Good Pods or Google or whatever.
Yeah.
And feel free to rate and review, or you know, just a rating is fine. 5 stars is best, but you know, whatever you feel is fine. You know,
Yeah.
if you think we need improvement, because this episode's not a high point, I don't feel, but you know what, it's okay.
Hey, continuous improvement. We're all about that. But we can't improve if you don't tell us. So
Well, that's right. That's right. There can be no growth without struggle. That's what they. What's the line? I don't even know. And that's pretty much it. We just thought we'd try something different this week.
yeah.
And throw out some stuff that we're enjoying. Some good recommendations. Hopefully, definitely get that cookbook if you like to cook. Watch Pennyworth. Watch Doctor Who.
Get a 3D printer.
Get a 3D printer. Make Mead. Make
Yes.
sourdough bread. Watch Shoresy and talk about tit fucking. I don't know. Whatever. whatever you want.
You're kind of anyway. You're a little
kind
obsessed
of-
there, man. So
I'm not. You know what? I'm not. It's something that came up recently. I'm sorry. In a
you
show.
can't stop saying it. So
I can't stop saying it, and I can't stop talking about cannabis, and I can't stop talking about. No, anyway, I'm just kidding. I just like to push the boundaries because there's no. I'm not a rule follower, Joe. That's what it comes down to.
there you go. Exactly. We don't follow rules.
We don't follow rules. Where we're going, we don't need rules
Yes.
or
that's it.
roads, but maybe we do need roads.
We probably need roads still.
It's infrastructure week here at the Flickcast. All right. Anything else? Anything else?
No, I think that's plenty.
All right then. For Joe Dilworth, I'm Chris Ulrich. That was the Flickcast. Thanks so much for listening.